The black sky above the ancient African savanna pressed down with suffocating weight. There was no moon to pierce the thick, suffocating darkness. An ocean of dry, whispering grass stretched out endlessly into the abyss. Somewhere out there in the impenetrable blackness, something massive was moving. A heavy rustling sound tore through the brush, followed by the chilling glint of reflection in unseen eyes. A small group of early human ancestors huddled together tightly on a cold, rocky ledge. They knew only one way to survive the terrifying night. They stayed completely motionless and silent, praying for the sun to return. For millions of years, this was the grim baseline of human existence. Darkness was never a mere inconvenience. It was a lethal threat. Every single night was an unforgiving test of survival. Now imagine that exact same landscape, that same terrifying darkness, and that same cluster of huddled souls. Add one apocalyptic element to the scene. A colossal wildfire is rampaging across the plains just 3 kilometers away. The fiery orange glow paints the horizon in sinister hues. The thick, acrid smell of burning smoke drifts heavily across the grass. The fire is enormous, consuming everything in its path with a deafening roar. Every instinct coded into every living creature screams a single word: run. Yet one of those fragile humans refuses to flee. They stay right where they are, watching the flames with hypnotic fascination. In that single defiant moment of stillness, a monumental shift begins. Over thousands of generations, this choice will spark every furnace, engine, and city after dark. How did a creature engineered to fear fire eventually learn to bring it home? Fire has been an ancient presence on Earth long before our ancestors walked upright. Lightning strikes regularly ignited dry grasslands and dense forests. Volcanic eruptions spilled rivers of liquid fire across landscapes, setting everything ablaze. Natural gas escaping from subterranean fissures burned continuously for years in a single spot. Fire never needed humanity to exist. It burned independently, raging constantly across the primordial planet. This ancient reality changes the core question entirely. Ancient humans did not need to invent fire from absolute nothingness. They lived within a world that produced it abundantly. The ultimate challenge was far more subtle and infinitely harder to conquer. They had to learn what to do with a force designed to kill them. The savanna of the early Pleistocene, roughly 2 million years ago, was a landscape of perpetual natural burning. Seasonal dry spells invited violent lightning storms that set entire plains ablaze within hours. For nearly every animal in existence, fire triggered one singular, immutable response: absolute flight. Every mammal, bird, and insect scrambled to escape the impending doom. This response was never a conscious choice. It was hardwired deep into animal nervous systems across hundreds of millions of years of ruthless evolution. Fire kills indiscriminately. Animals that lingered near the roaring infernos perished without exception. Consequently, ancestors that fled instinctively survived and passed those behaviors down. Running from fire became a biological imperative. Early hominins walking the perilous African landscape were no exception to this rule. They fled from wildfires just like every other terrified creature. Their bodies were poorly adapted for extreme heat, making swift escape essential for survival. Then, something extraordinary fractured this universal rule of nature. Some of our ancestors stopped running away and started coming back. After a wildfire swept through an area, once the ground cooled and flames died to smoldering embers, they approached. The practical incentives were undeniable. Small animals trapped by the flames were already thoroughly cooked. Deep roots and tubers that previously required exhausting effort to unearth and chew were now exposed. Thick, dangerous brush that hid predators was wiped clean, replaced by open ground. The wildfire performed immense amounts of grueling work for them. Early humans began systematically exploiting this post-fire bounty. This breakthrough was not a sudden, dramatic epiphany. It represented a profound behavioral shift spanning hundreds of thousands of years. Countless repeated encounters with burned landscapes built a new cognitive framework. Fire was terrifying, but fire was also immensely useful. No cave painting exists from 2 million years ago to record this subtle realization. Physical evidence of ancient fire use remains heartbreakingly fragile. Charcoal breaks down easily, and ash dissolves rapidly in water and wind. Organic traces of prehistoric burning vanish into soils over deep time. Archaeologists must rely on elusive fragments, like burned bones and heat-altered sediment. A Wonderwork cave in South Africa provides some of the earliest scientifically confirmed evidence. Dating back between 1 and 1.5 million years, researchers found burned bones and plant ash deep inside. This deep location inside the cave is the crucial smoking gun. Natural wildfires never burn 30 meters deep into dark cave interiors. The only way burned material reached that depth was through deliberate human transport. Someone intentionally carried fire in from the harsh outside world. These hominins were likely early members of Homo erectus, possessing larger brains and advanced tool use. Yet a lingering question remains. Where did they source that fire? Did they create it themselves, or did they scavenge it from outside sources? The most logical answer points firmly toward scavenging. A burning branch from a natural wildfire is easily accessible if you dare to approach. Smoldering wood with active embers can be safely broken off and carried away. Carving a path back required immense care to avoid extinguishing the fragile flame. They kept the burning wood elevated, shielding it from wind and moisture. This act required no complex technology, only extraordinary courage and cognitive foresight. They recognized that fire possessed intrinsic value worth preserving. That cognitive leap was the true discovery, preceding any spark-making technique. Once fire was acquired, keeping it alive presented an entirely new set of harrowing challenges. A burning branch consumes its fuel rapidly and eventually extinguishes itself. Flames are inherently unstable, vulnerable to sudden gusts of wind and heavy rain. Falling asleep while fuel ran low meant losing the fire entirely. For a group spending weeks walking away from lightning strikes, losing a flame meant catastrophe. It meant weeks without warmth, protection, or cooked food. Groups mastering fire maintenance gained an insurmountable evolutionary advantage. Understanding combustion chemistry became a sophisticated survival skill. Different wood types exhibited wildly contrasting burning properties. Soft, lightweight wood ignited quickly but burned out fast, leaving zero residue. Dense hardwoods burned slowly, generating long-lasting coals and holding heat for hours. Recognizing these distinctions transformed passive observers into active fire managers. Moisture remained the ultimate enemy of combustion. Wet wood refused to burn, and wet tinder smothered developing embers. Managing captured fire required storing fuel in dry, sheltered locations. Embers represented the ultimate secret weapon of ancient survival. While open flames were fragile and fuel-hungry, glowing embers were remarkably stable. Packed carefully inside dry ash, an ember could retain heat for hours or even days. The insulating ash protected the core from cooling winds and excessive oxygen. Wrapped in bark or tucked inside hollow bones, embers traveled safely across kilometers. Upon stopping for the night, gentle breath coaxed the smoldering core back into blazing life. This technological chain, wildfire, burning branch, stable ember, new flame, underpinned early human life. As groups repeatedly returned to identical locations, temporary camps evolved into permanent hearths. A true hearth is not merely a random pile of ash, it is vital infrastructure. Archaeologists differentiate random wildfire scars from intentional hearths through precise indicators. Intentional hearths display concentrated ash, repeated burning layers, and baked sediment beneath. They feature clustered spatial associations with stone tools and processed animal bones. Gesher Benot Yaakov in Israel, dated to 780,000 years ago, preserves exceptional evidence of organized hearths. Flint tools, seeds, and fish remains clustered tightly around ancient activity zones. Though the physical fire dissolved into soil, the spatial legacy remains unmistakable. The hearth completely reorganized daily human social life. It created a safe, warm, and illuminated core surrounded by a menacing exterior. Daylight was no longer the strict boundary of human functional activity. Groups gathered inward, sharing food, stories, and social connection in the warmth. Language found a protected room to develop and thrive within these evening circles. Simultaneously, cooking revolutionized human biology at the molecular level. Raw protein structures are tightly folded and difficult for human digestion to break down. Heat unfolds these proteins, making vital nutrients immediately accessible. Raw starches are unlocked and gelatinized by heat, yielding rapid cellular energy. Richard Wrangham's renowned cooking hypothesis argues that fire drove major evolutionary transformations. Cooked food supplied the massive caloric surplus required to fuel expanding brains. Simultaneously, it allowed the reduction of large, heavy digestive tracts seen in earlier primates. Homo erectus skeletons reveal smaller teeth, reduced jaw musculature, and dramatically larger brains. Though debates persist over exact timelines, the positive feedback loop is undeniable. Better energy led to bigger brains, enabling more sophisticated fire management. Beyond biology, the social dimensions of the hearth laid the groundwork for complex culture. Extended evening hours allowed accumulated tribal knowledge to pass across generations. Predator deterrence improved dramatically, allowing humans to sleep safely on the ground. Better sleep quality directly enhanced cognitive function and collective survival. Yet for hundreds of thousands of years, this entire lifestyle depended entirely on natural fire access. The ultimate technological leap arrived when humans mastered creating fire entirely from scratch. Two primary methods emerged through immense trial and error: friction and percussion. Friction fire harnesses mechanical energy to generate heat through surface rubbing. The hand drill uses a wooden rod spun rapidly against a softer wooden base. Friction grinds microscopic wood dust until it reaches combustion temperature, forming a glowing coal. The bow drill refined this motion, using a taut cord to accelerate rotation effortlessly. Percussion methods relied on striking specific stones against iron pyrite, producing intense sparks. Microscopic wear patterns on Neanderthal flint tools in France prove they struck pyrite over 50,000 years ago. They manufactured fire on demand long before modern humans dominated Europe. Successful ignition also required highly specialized tinder preparation. Fomes fomentarius, known as the tinder fungus, yielded Amadou, which caught sparks with exceptional reliability. Otzi the Iceman carried Amadou in his Neolithic toolkit 5,300 years ago. Mastering wood species, tinder preparation, and ember management formed a vital cultural inheritance. Losing this knowledge meant returning to the mercy of random lightning strikes. Each small observation accumulated across tens of thousands of generations. The legacy of that first captured flame stretches unbroken into the modern era. Controlled high-temperature fire enabled pottery creation 15,000 years ago. Copper and iron smelting unlocked the Bronze and Iron Ages, driving large-scale architecture and civilization. Internal combustion engines and modern steam turbines are direct descendants of ancient fire management. Every power grid and electric city traces its chemical lineage directly to the African Savannah. No single genius invented fire. Humanity collectively built its mastery through millions of trials. The fire is still burning brightly all around us today, hidden inside complex modern machines. We are the direct descendants of those who chose to stand their ground when the world burned.